You know what's better than being the first millionaire in your family? Making sure you're not the last. We're talking all about intergenerational wealth and how you expose your children to business today on Seven Figure Sister. Well, I have to say, I am so excited about today's episode because it includes one of the two most important people in the world to me. And this is my son, my number one son. My oldest son is here joining us today. And he's not just here to talk about the fact that he's just an incredible human being, period. He's going to talk about what it was like for him to grow up in a space where he literally contributed to this business from day one. Yes, it was this brainchild right here who created my very first funnel many, many years ago that led to my very first webinar many, many years ago that led to a goose egg in sales. Okay, but that's not his that's not his fault. That's not his fault. But since then, we have grown, we have refined, we have improved, how you do when you do not quit in business. And he's been there every step of the way, all the way up into seeing this company eclipse 7 figures plus. He was a key part of my sales team before going off to get his MBA. At that time that he left, he was actually my number one closer on my sales team. And he continues to work in sales now post MBA at an incredible level. With that said, I'm going to allow the incredible Guy DeWeever II to say hi and introduce himself to you. How you doing, Guy?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm so excited you took the time to jump on here today because now you're grown. You're a grown man, okay? You have your own life. You have your own schedule. You have your own hectic corporate job and all that highfalutin stuff that you're doing. So I appreciate you taking some time out here from mom today.
Of course, I always try to make time for you.
I appreciate that. You do, because you're good. You're just an incredible human being. So I first want to start off, babe, by talking about the fact that you have always had this penchant for business. And I saw it in you when you were just, what was that? Maybe in second grade. You were a little primary schooler and you got in trouble because of your entrepreneurial pursuits. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And I think I actually forgot to introduce myself in all the opening pleasantries, right? So a quick intro on myself, Guy DeWeever II, 2020 graduate of Virginia State University, 2022 graduate of Johns Hopkins University, where I got my MBA, as well as a Master's in Design Thinking. And I currently am a value consultant at ServiceNow. Been here for coming up on a month now. So it's crazy.
So let's pause there. Okay. So your very first job after you completed your MBA is with an amazing corporation based in Silicon Valley known as ServiceNow, right? So for people who aren't familiar with ServiceNow, what do they do generally? And then what do you do within the corporation?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not familiar with ServiceNow. We are primarily a B2B platform or B2B company. So a lot of times, everyday person doesn't really know about us unless they're directly in IT or the tech space. Essentially what ServiceNow is a platform, right? We try to make businesses run more efficiently, right? Our motto is help making the world work, right? So we do that by background processes, whether that's helping you onboard employees faster, helping you realize gains faster, helping you, close more deals, whatever we can do in the background to help you run your business more effectively from an IT perspective. That's what we do. We're talking about my specific job. What I do is as a value consultant, right? I basically have those conversations with our sales teams and they will bring me and our team in on deals, right? So if they have a deal that eclipses over 500,000 in account value, they can actually reach out to my team, its Fire Value team. And we really help make the case as they're talking to our customers, right? For why is this a good investment? What are the value drivers behind this investment? Yes, you're going to spend $500,000 plus, right? But what are the things what's the return on investment going to be? And how do we quantify the ServiceNow impact on what's going on within your business? So That was a mouthful, but that's pretty much what it is and what I do.
That is a mouthful, but it's such a valuable mouthful because we talk about high ticket sales here on Seven Figure Sister, and you just had a number come out of your mouth, which was a minimal value that you work with. I just want people to get that. I don't want you to gloss over the fact that what you do is you work exclusively in high ticket sales, but your high ticket floor is $500,000 per sale. Is that correct?
Yeah, you said it a lot more elegantly than I did, but that's exactly it. Yeah.
That is like mind blowing. I know to a lot of my listeners who are out here trying to get $5,000 out of their mouth or $50,000 out of their mouth. You are saying
Yeah.
500,000 is your floor, and you are how old?
26.
26 years old. Now, it should
Yeah.
make some of us old heads feel a little something right now. If this 26-year-old is closing
Yeah.
$500,000 plus sales, and we're trying to have a hard time wrapping our brains around our value of being 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it may be, just know that you have to own it first. But you didn't always start here with being comfortable with having high ticket sales at that level, maybe even at any level, but you've always had this interest in sales per se. I noticed it when you were in
Yeah.
elementary school. Can you talk about how you first had your initial sales as a child?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a funny story. So we were on the playground and my dad actually just taught me how to make some cool paper airplanes. So I brought those to school with me to show off to some friends. Next thing I knew, they wanted me to build theirs and we were playing games with them and things like that. As we invented games for them and as more people wanted them, I actually tried to turn that into a business and said, listen, I can make you guys some, but it's going to come at a price, right? So I had a functioning paper airplane business until I was shut down for apparently some school rules around selling at the playground or whatever the case may be.
So in the second grade, you had your very first business selling paper airplanes on the playground. And as I recall, yeah, you got shut down by the man, also known as the principal. Right?
Yeah.
Because the kids were spending their lunch money with you. But I think it's an adorable story. But what I think is very interesting here is that you've always shown this penchant of understanding that value is associated with what you are bringing to the table. If it's a paper airplane for your peers in second grade, or if it's clients right now, major corporate clients who are spending
Yeah.
$500,000, $1 million, $2 million plus per sale for you, you understand this basic concept of understanding that what you have to offer brings value. So, how do you
Yeah.
think you came across that understanding, and how has that grown over the years as that ticket has grown in terms of the value of what you've been selling?
Yeah. I think for me, it all comes back to people, right? And I think I was asked this question before within a different conversation outside of like within work, right? And it's interesting. I think the first thing is just understanding what do people need. And then if you can understand what they need and you can understand what's in your capacity to provide, right? Then the only thing that's missing is just putting a dollar value on that, right? And again, you can quantify that by understanding how badly they need it, understanding the scarcity in the marketplace, and a few other things, right? So I think for me, I try to understand people and what their need is. And then while simultaneously understanding what I have and what I can offer, right? So for me and my corporate job looks like understanding our entire portfolio of products. So that
Hmm.
way, when I'm having these conversations, I can, as quickly as I can, right? Try to match those together. So that's kind of how I've been able to do it, but not only within this role, but within other things in the past as well.
And exactly. And think about your time on my sales team. I mean, this is not the first time that, for example, you're the youngest person on the team. Right now in your company, you're the youngest person on your team. So you're the youngest person
Yeah,
there selling these high
yeah,
ticket sales. As far as I
by
understand, you're the
far.
only African American in this division
Yeah,
as well. So you are someone who understands that you belong in every room. So I'm super proud of you for that. And you perform at every level. But I'm thinking about you when you were on my team, right?
yeah,
And I'm thinking about that was another situation, obviously a much smaller company, where you were the youngest salespersons on my team, but you were like closing, closing, closing. And I remember that
yeah,
some of my other team members were asking you, what are you doing? And one of the things that you share that I think a lot of our listeners can glean from is because you've been with my company from day one, because you're my son, because you not only know what I do, but why I do it and the heart that I have for the work that I do, your sales technique also included enlightening people onto who I was, just who I was and what
yeah,
I care about. Why do you think that's important? Because a lot of our listeners have a similar business, and I think they
Yeah.
kind of skip right over that in the sales conversation. Why is that important to
Yeah.
close sales?
Yeah, I think it's critically important, right? Especially as we're seeing the saturation level. I don't want to say oversaturation, but saturation level of the market, right? Where you could say anybody can make an Instagram page and say they're an expert, right? And then there's fewer people that might have the qualification to back that up. But I think what's even more important, or equally as important as qualifications to back it up, right, is to say that this is something that you genuinely care about, right? I mean, if I'm paying someone for a service like that, I want them to have a vested interest in me. And I think specifically with your situation, like I knew that this business, right, that you've now created into a 7-figure empire is what I'll call it. I think it is, right, is really the culmination of a lifelong, mission, right? Because you've always, I think what you're doing in this business is something that you've always wanted to do. It just took a few different iterations, right, between your corporate experience, your volunteer experience, your other business, right? Everything to kind of get to exactly what you're doing now, right? So it just
Mhm.
took a while to be able to, again, understand the market, understand what you can offer to people that will actually benefit the end goal that I think you've always wanted to do, which is helping Black women succeed,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that oftentimes people are so wedded to, for lack of a better term, scripts or focusing on overcoming objections that they forget the vulnerability and transparency that's needed to make that human to human connection, right? And
Yeah,
even if you're not the one doing the sales all the time, because as your business grows, you're not going to close all the sales. You're going to start to expand and have a sales team like the role that Guy served with me, along with other peers who are on
yeah,
the sales team. But you need to make if you have sales teams, you need to make sure that they know your story, right? So that they can share that as well. And if it's you that's doing all the closing, you need to do it too because it's that heart to heart connection. It's not just all the facts, ma'am, just the facts, ma'am. It's the heart connection and
yeah,
people's feeling around your authenticity that's going to make them feel comfortable with saying yes to you as opposed to someone else who does
yeah.
something similar to what you do. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, one of the things you can also add to that, if you go back to, I think I learned it in high school or college, right? You got the egos, logos, and pathos, right? The different type of connections and ways that you're qualifying what you're saying, right? So you've got
Mhm.
logic, right? You've got heart connection, and there's one more that slipped my mind. But I think if you can Google those, obviously, ethos, logos, and pathos
Mhm.
in terms of creating appeals to people, right? And if you can
Like the
tie in as many of those as you
values.
can.
I'm thinking values might
Yes.
be the
Yep.
other one. Mhm.
I think it is. Yeah. So just try to tie those in, and I think you can't go wrong there.
Absolutely. Now, there's one other story I want to mention because I have to mention this story about your trajectory in terms of where you are right now with sales. He didn't only just do high ticket sales, you guys. I mean, he's done everything from selling sneakers to working at another major Fortune. I don't want to shame it because I always say Fortune 500. I know it's higher than that. What was your
The
internship when you were in
Fortune 100.
Fortune 100
Yeah.
company? Excuse me. I don't want to
Yeah.
step on any
Yeah.
toes. Okay. So you had an amazing internship at a Fortune 100 company when you were an undergrad,
Mhm.
and that also involved sales. This involved, I would probably say, the most intimidating form of sales that people tend to want to avoid like
Yeah.
the plague, and that is cold calling, right? So you have been
Mhm.
in the trenches, cold calling to get clients. You still
Yeah.
managed to rank your first time in a brand new industry, had, get licensed in this brand new industry, and still you were able to rank regionally in terms of your sales
Yeah.
closing rate, right? Where were
Yeah.
you regionally? Remind
I think I
me.
was third in the region.
Third
Yeah.
in the region. Yes, yes, honey. Okay, so you were third in the region
Yeah.
in this brand new
Yeah.
field. But I remember you were just starting out in this company and your boss called me in within a couple of weeks. And I'm thinking, damn, you hadn't been there long enough to mess up this band. Why am I being called in? What's going on? I was a little concerned. I was a little concerned.
Yeah.
Okay. But I came
Is that the
in.
principal's office call?
Exactly. It felt like I was being called to the principal's office. I was like, damn, what did he do? What did he do? All right. So I came to meet with your boss and went out
Yeah.
to lunch. And as soon as I sat in the chair across from him, what flew out of his mouth was, what did you do to make him so fearless?
Mm.
Boom. Drop the mic. My job as a mother is done. I was so excited to hear him say that because to me, that is the goal, to raise fearless children generally so they can pursue their dreams and their ambitions and hopes without reservations. But particularly in sales, you have got to be fearless. Wouldn't you say that is the case? I mean, if you're
Yeah,
scared, you're not asking for
yeah,
the sale, right?
yeah, yeah. Or at least not saying it with the same level of authority, conviction, et cetera. 10 words I could put there, right? But you want to say it like you mean it and know that you mean
Hmm. So, how did you get seriously then? I'm going to ask you that question. How
it.
did
Yeah,
you get to be so fearless? Because there are a lot of people out there that are listening right now that get nervous in their sales conversations. What is your primary tip for them in terms or tips
yeah.
in terms of getting over that fear so that you can get the sale?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a process, right? I mean, I definitely didn't start day one in terms of my sales journey being fearless, right? But
Mhm.
each time I've made myself uncomfortable, each time I had these different sales things, I mean, it wasn't just those companies. I worked at Verizon as a sales associate. We talked about the elementary school thing, and
Mhm.
we talked about my sneaker reselling and reselling PlayStation 5s and all these things, right? But each time I was uncomfortable, and each time I did some sales, you get better at it, you feel more comfortable, and eventually you get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So I
Mm.
wouldn't say that I was fearless in that internship. I'm glad that it came across like that. I just was pretty good at managing those fears and understanding what works for myself, right? And some of those things for me personally, and this goes on to pitch competition, speech competition, a whole bunch of things that I've done to make myself uncomfortable,
That you've
right? But
done and
then be able
won.
to be
Let me just practice. Let me
yes,
just brag as a mom that you've done and won national speech
and one,
competitions, national
yeah,
pitch competitions. Let's just go ahead and put it all out
yeah,
there, baby. Okay.
yeah, true, 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 right?
Don't be
So
modest
it's
around me.
got you, I got you. Well, I know you won't let me.
No, I won't.
But yeah, right. Those things, and again, none of those. I mean, I felt 100% comfortable going into it, right?
Right.
Especially, but doing more and more, you get better and better. But I think to say specifics, I think one thing that really helped me in sales, I think it sounds a little repetitive, but feeling good about what it is that I'm selling. Because I
Mhm.
think the number one thing for me that helped me build confidence in that, right? There were times, right? I mean, I'm talking, say, Verizon, right, where they just wanted us to. Maybe I shouldn't say the name.
No. So we'll,
No,
we'll
this.
edit that out. That's okay. But you've had experiences where you maybe haven't feel comfortable selling what you're
Yes,
selling. Is that fair to
Y-
say?
yes, that is fair to say, right?
Mhm.
And then when you get that conviction, when you understand that you are really out there helping people, it just makes it a whole lot better, right? It helps with objection handling because now you don't feel like you're selling; you feel like you're a consultant helping this person get to the solution that they already want, right?
Mhm.
And this will really help. So that was very important for me. That was huge to really be able to feel that I was helping people.
I love
Another
that.
thing that was huge for me outside of getting more comfortable and just doing it over and over again, right, was I forgot the third one. So we'll cut that out.
That's okay. What do you mean, the
Yeah, I had
repetition?
three. Yeah, I said the repetition. And I
Okay.
was saying one outside of repetition.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot the third one.
That's okay. We'll come back to it later. Wow.
It's okay.
So you're saying a mouthful here because what I heard you say is that stop waiting to be comfortable. That's kind of what I took from what you said. Stop waiting to be comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable. You just have to keep moving. And it's the repetition that gives you a greater confidence in various situations.
Yeah,
And then at the same time, I'm also hearing that you have to believe in what you're selling. And when you
yeah,
believe in what you're selling, correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, but maybe it just doesn't even feel like selling. It just feels like helping. Like, this is the solution that that person is waiting for. And it kind of
yeah,
eliminates that nasty, sleazy, salesy sort of connotation that many of us have about selling. When you go into it with an open heart and with supreme confidence that I know that what I can provide will make that person's life better. When you think about it like that, it is helping even more than it's selling. Is that fair to say?
yeah, 100%. Right. And I think it's important because it's important to go back to what I was talking about earlier when it's about understanding person that you're talking to and what they actually need, right? Because if you do
Mhm.
that well enough, and if you know that you have a solution, right, it's just helping them see that your solution is the answer, which again is a lot better feeling and a lot easier, right, to have those tough conversations sometimes people, right? And a lot of times if they're looking for what you need and you have what you need, what they need, right, then it's all about price point, right? And when you're talking price point, you got to understand that just because you can't afford something, may potentially doesn't mean that they can't, right? So you got to look and price things for what they're worth and not necessarily what you can afford.
Oh my God. So that's a big one. I have to underline that, highlight it, draw a circle around it, because that is some wisdom that all of us can get. I heard you say here, just because you can't afford something, it doesn't mean that your
Yeah.
prospect can't. Once again, I
Yeah.
think that's one of those things that kind of gets in people's subconscious is if you're having a hard time getting a specific price out of your mouth because you're saying somewhere down deep into yourself, oh my God, I couldn't afford to spend $25,000 on this thing or whatever your price point is. Stop counting other people's money. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, you can't. Okay. You don't know what they have in their bank account. You don't know what they have access to. You don't know what they're willing to sacrifice. I have to tell you, I've never made an investment in my business, and whether or not that be for mentoring, whether or not that be for a team that hasn't stretched me in some way. It does stretch you. Growth requires that you go out on the limb kind of a little bit first before you actually get the return that you're looking for. The investment precedes the return. And sometimes that's scary. But as you mentioned, Guy, even as someone who sells, you know that you have to push past that fear. And for someone who is looking to have conversations to make someone feel confident to invest in you, you have to show that you believe in you and that you actually are valuing yourself correctly for them to appreciate the value that you provide. I mean, I'm just wondering, like, for example, the type of clients that you all work with right now at ServiceNow, could you imagine yourself charging, for example, a tenth of what you guys charge and expecting those major clientele to take you seriously? I mean, would you even expect them to take you seriously?
No, of course not. Right. I mean, at some point, right. And I think for me right now, as a 26-year-old, I'm starting to make that transition, right, for paying for convenience, right,
Mhm,
over, and I'll pay a little bit more for that for, be able to save some of my time. Right. And
mhm,
I think it's the same thing here, right? It's people that pay for convenience because that's a better use of your money to be able to pay for that over time. Right. It's the same thing right here
mhm, mhm.
because people will pay a little bit more a lot of times or a lot more, or a lot of times for the right person, for the right solution. Right. So again, it's that same kind of muscle memory connection that people are already doing. And I'm sure your clients and people watching this are doing already as well.
Absolutely. And this is something that is so important for us who sell high ticket to understand is that our buyer is like what you just described, G. Our buyer understands the value of their time and they value their time more than money in the sense that they know in essence they are buying back their time when they pay a little bit
Yeah.
more for something to make sure that it's done right the first time, to make sure that it is of quality. And if you price yourself so low, they're going to start to wonder, is she really going to be able to deliver? Okay. We don't want to have those questions. Now, one
Yeah.
last thing I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to let you go because I appreciate you being so generous with your time, Mr. Businessman, today. But you've also, as you're transitioning into your new company, you have been told about what division you're going to be over. And could you share with people what your quarterly sales target is? Because I just want people to hear this to once again expand their minds a little bit more.
Yeah. No. So last quarter and what's expected of me to duplicate, either do it again or go up, was we did 133 million last quarter. And that's expected to continue. If not, go
So let me just once again,
up.
this is not 100 million in a year, which in and of itself would be impressive. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a minimum of 100 million a quarter. Boom. Okay.
Yeah.
And you, as the youngest person in the division, the only African American in the division, you have the responsibility coming in there to generate sales at that level. What gives you the confidence to say, yes, I can do that?
Yeah. I mean, I've done it before and I know I can. You know? I think it goes back to confidence. I mean, I feel like any room I belong in, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, and I
Mhm.
think that started a long time ago. I mean, there's a lot of times where I was in rooms where I was uncomfortable, right? And didn't know if I belong. And eventually those feelings go away and you know that you do.
Hmm.
So between that and just knowing that I've done this pretty much same thing on a high level with different organizations really gives me all the confidence that I need.
Absolutely. And just a tip for parents here. One of the things that I made sure that I did ever since G was small is because, to be honest with you, I think that our responsibility as parents is to look and see what the interests of our children are, and then to do everything that we can to expose them to those environments and help them
Yeah.
to develop those natural instincts and interests and talents that they have. As we shared here today, at second grade, it was very clear that he was interested in business, right? And as I started my business and I began to invest in myself in getting masterminds and trainings, I would pay extra to bring him with me. So if I am experiencing a high level, high ticket mastermind and they're having retreats, if it costs extra to bring him with me, I brought him with me. And so he was in the room as someone who's maybe ever since you were in middle school, you were in the room with very highly successful 7-figure plus entrepreneurs talking about sales, talking about this process of growing businesses. My whole goal and thought process behind that was I wanted to be able to provide for you experiences by the time you were 20 that I didn't get to have until I was 40. And that has been one of my life goals for you as a parent. I guess so. My question to you is, did I do it?
I think so. I think so. I think you've mentioned this, I mean, we talked about that's one of those recurring things, right? That you say and that you've said for a long time.
Hmm.
And I guess I didn't really understand it at first, but seeing it now, seeing and feeling that I'm on par with people on my team much older than me, that I'm a lot further past where a lot of my direct peers are, I would definitely say you did. And I attest a lot of that to you.
Thank you, baby. But I want to say I'm super proud of you for stepping up and consuming it all. And that's just, to me, the biggest tip that I want to give the parents who are listening to this right now. It is not just about you having access to the information. It's about sharing it with your children so they don't have to figure it out on their own. It's not just about you being there burning the midnight oils growing your business. It's about you bringing your children into your business with you so they can also be involved in the process of watching it grow. And it's not just them watching it grow, it's them being great contributors to it. I mean, they have wonderful ideas if you're open your mind and your ears to listen. To this very day, I would say that, G, you are my most trusted business advisor. Even though you are out, you've flown the coop. He's flown the coop, y'all. Okay. He's completely independent now, has his own career that he's on. If I'm at a crossroads in my business, if I have a question about what I should do next, you would be the first person, and you are the first person that I call because you've been here from the beginning and I trust your judgment. What I want you to understand as parents is that you also have access to that genius if you would trust them enough to let them express it. So do not look over the assets that your children can be in your business. And also be very intentional about allowing your children the opportunity to learn as you are learning, because then as they grow, they will be so much further along compared to their peers with regards to their confidence level, with regards to their comfort level, and doing what they need to do in order to succeed. Are there any bits of advice that you'd like to give parents or young adults out there that might be listening today, Guy, about how they can too either grow their own business or become a ninja at sales in the same way that you are?
Yeah, I think I start with the parents. First off, again, I would just say, see what your kids are interested in. And even if you don't know if they can do a great job at it yet, and I still say give them the task and see if they're interested. I don't know. I felt like I didn't do, and I was very nervous about that sales funnel that we did all
You
those
did a
years
great job.
ago.
Let me just say, trust and
I,
believe. Me and technology, okay? I'm going to say, gee, you did a much better job than I ever could. Continue.
okay. First time I had ever done that, I think, Googling and YouTubing it as I was going, right? So, but yeah, that was something, again, I mean, outside of my comfort zone. It was kind of a stretch assignment for me. I was able to like do a good job, as you said. I didn't know that, but I'm glad it worked well. So just, give your kids those opportunities to be able to impress themselves and impress you. For the people out there that want to get into sales, I say do it. Start wherever you can, learn, be okay, understand that you're going to be uncomfortable, and try to do all the little things to get better each and every day. Some great books out there. that also help with that, and great mentors that you can follow. And for anyone that just wants to be successful, I say just see the network and see people that are around you, and see if there's any way you can try to learn what everyone else is doing, and those things. So hopefully, I hope that all that helps.
Absolutely. I'm sure it does. Well, G, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. Super proud of you as usual. Go out there and kill it. Go ahead and get that 100 million that you're working on. Listen, all of my peers out there who are a little bit older than G, I just want you to realize that if he can close 100 million per quarter, you can close 1 million in a year. I just want you to get your brain around that. I want you to recalibrate what you think is big, what you think is obtainable, what you think is pie in the sky. This 26-year-old is on the path of closing $100 million in sales per quarter. That's over 400 million, because it's 100 million plus, right? Over 400 million a year. All I'm asking you to do is to set your sight on your first one. When you get there, two. When you get there, five. When you get there, 10. That's the beauty about business. There is no ceiling. There is no ceiling. Go get
Yeah.
yours. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, G. And we'll see you next time on Seven Figure Sistah. So if you are ready to go and embark upon your seven-figure journey and you just don't know how, or if you are out here already killing it, but you are ready to scale, then you need to join me at Black Millionaire Coach Live. It's super easy. Just go to blackmillionairecoachlive.com, put in the promo code 7FigureSister, and receive your special discount so you can join us on October 14th through 16th in Pentagon City, right across the way from Washington, D.C. I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.